Hello and welcome to another episode of Ask Adam. Ask is the acronym for always seek knowledge. That's one thing I've always strived to do in my life is to understand not only what it was I was doing, why I was doing it, and what the end result would eventually become. Much of this indoctrinated thinking that occurred somewhere, I'm not really sure where. I will let you know my my followers as soon as I understand. But I've just always been innately curious about life and just understanding things and want to know why. Right? The elementary aspect of a child just simply asking why several times to come to a conclusion. Nonetheless, I recall it was summertime and I was working for a gentleman. He was kind of, I guess, my headhunter. He would negotiate with captains to find work around South Florida because I grew up around boats and worked on boats. And so he would find some of these odd jobs of either replacing mechanics or waxing, polishing, washing, you name it. To some level, I was doing something on a boat. And I remember Jim picking me up one day to take me to wherever it was we were going to go. And he said, "Hey, we're doing something different today." I said, "I'm always up for an adventure." He says, "We're going to lay sod." I didn't know what sod was at the time, and I quickly discovered and understood the aspects and the fundamentals of how to properly lay sod. That being said, I remember going and understanding the preparation process, and then we applied the sod in a specific pattern and direction, and then we watered it and made sure that it was down and tamped into the new soil, and just all of these fundamentals, I guess, about laying sod. Now, quite frankly, I've never laid sod since then, and certainly don't plan on doing it again. Nonetheless, I understood what it was, and I think some of that I've added to the fundamentals of life. Because if you don't prepare the soil and you lay down that roll of sod, it might not take. If you don't have fresh soil for the roots to absorb into that are part of the sod membrane of the matured grass, if you will, then it's not going to grow. And if it's too hard, what can happen is the water can pool and you'll end up with like root rot or just it doesn't drain. And so your grass becomes oversaturated with water. And that's not good either. So finding that happy medium. And I think that has a lot to do with life. If you don't prepare the foundation of what it is you want to do, well, then whatever you put as your next layer is just not going to take. It's not going to take properly, and you'll find yourself struggling. So, again, ASK is the acronym for always seek knowledge. I hopefully this has added some knowledge to your portfolio. Whether you lay sod again or not, just like myself, you still understand. Anyway, my name is Adam, and let's get on with the show. Success rituals, daily practices for peak performance. Your daily discipline is what will keep you in peak performance mode. Again, I can't stress how well that really was a great intro to what we're talking about today. Having the right foundation. Motivation might get you started, but it's your daily rituals that keep you performing like a pro. You don't rise to the level of your dreams, you fall to the level of your routines. As I mentioned before in the sod application, much of that was the routine of preparing the soil, the routine of putting these rolls of grass that were grown in another location and then relocated to where we were at to then get placed in a position to regrow and become someone's yard. The same thing, if you don't set that up to win, then you're going to have problems. You're going to have grass that's not going to grow, and then you're going to have to reapply it again. And quite frankly, to do it in patches is going to be difficult because once you kind of tuck these squares of grass in place, well, yeah, you're basically stitching a new piece into what didn't work. And so having that strong foundation is always important. I promised in this episode that you'll learn how to build sustainable, repeatable success through intentional rituals that sharpen your mind, reset your body, and align your spirit. Let's get started. Rituals versus routines. Routines are things we do out of obligation. Rituals are things we do with intention and energy. A great example is those of you that have kids out there in the audience, you get up in the morning, you get them dressed, you feed them breakfast, you take them to school. Well, I don't know too many parents, and frankly, I'm not one, so I do apologize. But I don't know that you do that with intention and energy each and every morning. I have a feeling it's more of obligation. That being said, hopefully that's a great example to share with you how doing things with obligation versus doing something with intention and energy. Now, there may be some superstar parents out there that get up every day and have a workout routine and they're already running at 150 miles an hour when they wake up their kid and they're taking their kid to school knowing they're going to be some amazing scholar that's going to invent something to better the world. And obviously, that's doing it with intention and energy. But let's be honest with each other. I don't think that's long lived. That may be for the first couple years of school where you're excited and they're learning things, and then pretty much now they're being combative because they really don't want to go to school either because they don't want to see their friends or they don't want to be part of society. So, that being said, the difference between doing something as an obligation and doing something with intention and energy is a little bit of what we're going to focus on today. Repetition builds certainty, but only when paired with celebration and emotion does it become a ritual. Let me reframe. Your nervous system craves rhythm. Rituals train your body and your mind to expect excellence. Let me say that again. Rituals train your brain and mind to expect excellence. Now, I know many of you out there want to be the best you can be. And you may be struggling out there to get over that hurdle and just not feel like you're doing your best or that you're not striving towards your goals. And that's understandable. We all kind of end up in a little bit of that slump. But these rituals, these morning routines, most often are what's going to help plan your day. Let me give you an example. When I was in real estate, I got up at 4 in the morning, no matter what. No matter what time I went to bed, I got up at 4 in the morning. And I got up to go work out. I had a space in my house, in this particular house, where I had workout equipment. And I would work out, building up my muscles for about 45 minutes and go through my routine to the point where I didn't have to know what I was doing next. I just knew that I was doing behind the neck, then I was doing in front, and then I was doing the butterflies, and then I was just going through my routine. And when I got done, lo and behold, it was about 40, 45 minutes. Then I'd go on the treadmill and I'd walk for 2 miles. And once that was exhausting, it was usually another little minute. And I was tired and sweaty and pretty worked up. Had my body's RPM pretty well revving the race. And then I had a tanning bed. Now, no, I didn't want to turn into the orange guy. And quite frankly, I think the bulbs were burned out of their energy. So I don't think it really worked as far as providing a tan. But I just found it relaxing to lie in the bed, set it for 20 minutes, and just hear the hum of the motor and the warmth of the bulbs help me relax. I would just lay there and calmly sweat. Now, I know that sounds a little funny, but it was a routine. And I got up and I did it every day without fail. And I really didn't argue with what I was doing because I was still kind of sleepy. So I really didn't know what I was doing. But I ingrained this into sort of my subconscious activities. So by the time I did work up, relax, get in the shower, get dressed, I was completely balanced and ready to take on the day. I say that because then when I got to work, if I got a bad email, if I got a canceled client, if I had a phone call, if something went sideways with the contract, yeah, it bothered me, but not in the personal way. I didn't take it as another chaotic event happening in my life. It was just another routine. It was learning how to work through that thing. So I share with you that you want to have that routine already in place. I was already set for excellence. And quite frankly, my mind being sharp and my body being healthy, not to mention the great tall glass of celery juice with a little bit of other fruits for flavor that I enjoyed, I was already feeling good. There was nothing that was going to stop me. And that's where this ritual trained my mind and my body to expect excellence. And I was already at that excellent moment. So nothing could really bring me down from that level of excellence. That's, I guess, what I'm sharing with you is find that routine that's going to have you at your peak state first thing at the beginning of your day. No matter what time of the day that may occur for you, let that be your routine to set things in motion. That way, no matter what happens throughout the day, you're already ready to fire on all cylinders, as they say. I found myself even in unique situations when I began traveling that I didn't always have a place to work out. And that's where I found myself t- utilizing things that, well, I could do while I was traveling, things I could pack, if you will, in my suitcase. For instance, a 5 minute breath work routine, adding that with some affirmations, some positive thoughts. And it got to the point where I was reciting those without having some cheat cards in front of me to remind me. I found that was most helpful. And quite frankly, to meditate, to just be still and take in the day, to the beginning of the day, to already see what you wanted to accomplish, to already see what you wanted to do and see that in a successful form. Well, quite frankly, it started my day as already being successful. So if it did go sideways and it didn't turn out the way I wanted, well, quite frankly, it didn't disturb me or bother me mentally or physically because I was already in my peak state. I was already set for success in my mind. Remember, as I've shared with you before, as I think, I feel, as I feel, I do. So already preparing your mind for the day, yeah, it's a little tough to get disturbed. Somebody cuts you off. Hey, you're probably already thinking about something successful or something positive happening in your life or to be happening that doesn't bother you. You know, many times we let those little things get in the way and that upsets us. And that can lead to continuing upsetness as well as just being discouraged with life. And a few of those events occurred. Pretty soon you're muttering the terms, why me? Or can this be happening today? This is not putting you in a peak state. This is not putting you at your best performing attitude. So, again, these morning early rituals to get into to practice each day and start with something small. I'm not saying you got to convert your ritual in one day and you have a schedule already and it's probably going to be tough, but certainly put in a good 5 to 10 minutes to get started with breath work, affirmations, and just relax. Take in right where you're at, the stillness before the day even gets started. Another thing I like to do, and this is helpful as well if you're traveling, it's packable, is to stretch. or to do a quick workout. I remember many times just setting my phone on a YouTube exercise that was about 15 or 20 minutes and just following along with them. And that was some jumping and some moving and some breathing and just kind of getting my energy worked up. Energy equals electricity. You got to get your body's current flowing. And, you know, a cup of coffee is great. In fact, I enjoy a cup of coffee to relax. It doesn't build me up. It kind of slows me down a little bit. You don't necessarily want coffee right away and think that's going to jolt you up. I mean, it will, but jump starting your car, yeah, it'll get the car started, but it's not the best thing for it. You need to bring that energy gradually up to the battery so that it operates at its peak state. And just sort of throwing voltage at it, it's great to make the what you want happen, but it's not good for sustainability. You need to what they call trickle charge, where you're bringing energy into the battery at small increments, and then it builds up to its peak state. I guess that's similar to what we're doing each morning, is building ourselves up with a trickle charge so that our battery is fully charged and we're able to succeed and sustain throughout the day without having to get jump started. Because quite frankly, energy drinks, too much coffee at the wrong time, it's just not good. It's not healthy for you. Focus the intention. 3 non-negotiable tasks and write them down. Remember, as I've always said, what we write, we invite. I myself write a journal each day where I just sketch down my thoughts, my plans for the day, what went well yesterday, what I see going well today, as well as some expectations that I have for the future, and constantly writing them down. Because again, what we write, we invite. Don't just trust it to memory. By sketching these things down, the hand eye mind coordination is at work. And we're putting these things down. We're thinking about it, we're writing it, and then we're seeing ourselves write it down and most likely kind of reading as we're writing. This is a process also of a ritual to sort of ingrain this and remind ourselves in our mind what it is we truly want. You may find yourself writing the same thing just in different phrases, and that's great. There's somewhere you have to start. You may find yourself frustrated. Write it down. I've said before, when you're angry, write it down. I give you fair play to fill out at least one page of just being angry. And then the second step of that, you can't just stop. The second step is that hopefully it's in a spiral book or some binded paper book. I want you to put a line on the top. On that upper left corner, I want you to put a line. I want you to put a minus symbol, right? The straight line. And then I want you to turn the page over, and on the back side of that page, you begin to now, after you've exhausted all these negative thoughts that you needed to get out of your system, I want you to put something positive in that upper left corner. I want you to put the plus sign. And then you're going to fill out that page with plus. The reason I say this is it's interesting. If you go back to that and you see that, you'll recognize that maybe a couple times out of the period of filling out this particular journal, there was a few negative thoughts, a few bad days that went on, but they were also followed by a good day because you put a plus mark and you filled it out with better intentions, what you want to happen. Once you've exhausted the negative thoughts and behaviors, you're going to fill them in with something positive. And remember, what we write, we invite. So you're automatically, immediately combating that negative thought. Again, you got to get it out of your system. Now, if it's better for you to just sit there and talk in the mirror, or for you to just sort of rant for a half hour in an empty room, whichever works best for you. But again, remember your combative behavior is to turn around and do something positive, whether it's writing or doing. But again, if you're already writing, I feel like that's just the easiest course of action. To rant and be negative and then put yourself in the state of positive to go do something positive, I think that's sort of a next level skill. And we can always get into those next level skills at a later time. I just want to keep it simple and basic because I understand that many of us are just starting out. It's just sort of elementary for us, and we don't know that first step. We don't know the first right step. There's many stones in the pond, but which one's the solid one to step on? That's part of this elementary system, if you will, is I'm pointing you towards those sturdier stones. They're a little bit bigger, not as risky, but they're not going to wobble when you step on them. And when you're just starting out, you got enough going on. You don't need wobbly stones to step on crossing this great water divide known as life. So again, we're going to write down 3 non-negotiable tasks that we're not going to trust to memory. We're going to write these down. And again, I want you to celebrate your small wins. Daily praise with practice. Track your done list, not just your to-dos. I have a whiteboard that I have in my office, and I have to-dos, doing, and done. I have 3 columns because I want to know what to do. I also want to know what I'm doing, and I also want to recognize that something got done. Whiteboards, I think, are great because you can wipe the dry, wipe it off, write it in the next one, write it in the next one. I set up with some tape and some stickers to create these columns, and I think it works great for what it is I'm doing to be able to visually see at a quick glance, hey, I'm doing something, or what I need to do, I'm doing something, as well as what I've accomplished. There's always something in those 3 columns. And again, to see that, know, and to recognize that you're doing something, whether or not it's happening in a certain period of time, well, that's kind of another story. But just recognizing that you have something on your plate to do, that you're actively doing something, and that you have completed some tasks. Now, I'm going to be honest with you and slightly harsh, is if those same 3 to 6, 9 things are in your column, in your different columns, and you haven't changed them in 6 months, well, you're also not doing. And that's going to be a whole nother podcast of probably procrastination, maybe some overwhelm. You're getting basically overwhelmed by what I call the toxic 10. So let's not go down that road of being affected by those. Let's have already tackled our toxic 10 in our life, and let's be really focused on this. This is an active board. Like I said, it's a whiteboard. You're going to constantly be tracking what it is you're doing. And again, celebrate. When you move something from one column to the other, pat yourself on the back. Celebrate with a dance or a yell, whatever it is that you do to build up that energy and sort of let out that success moment and say yes. Put your hand up, say you're awesome, and congratulate yourself for moving something from one column to the other, even from the to do to doing. Hey, I'm ready to take on this task and I'm going to put it in the do column. And now this is going to be part of my routine. And then once it's become part of your routine, you put it in the done. And as those columns are filling up, you can certainly erase them and put other things in. If you're analytical like me, you could put it in a gigantic spreadsheet and keep constant track of all the things you're doing. But again, I'm just trying to keep it simple for you. Let's just have 3 columns. Like I said, this was about a 20 by 30 whiteboard with just some lines, and I put those 3 columns. Again, what I write, I invite. So when I put it in that to-do column, I'm now committing myself to eventually doing it. And when I put it in the do column, I'm committing myself to now doing it daily, weekly, or monthly as part of my practice. And then once I've completed it, I put it in the done column. I congratulate myself for the great success of going through that process. Like I said, celebrate small wins. Repetition is the mother of all skill. Praise is the father. Next, you also want to disconnect to recharge. Remember, these are routines that we are building. So starting small and getting into the habit is certainly going to be beneficial for you. So disconnect to recharge. That means no screen for 30 minutes before bed. I know that's going to be a hard one for many of you. No screen time, no TV time, no tablet time, no phone time. Read a book, read your journal. You could write your journal before you go to bed. I think that's just as important as waking up and writing your journal. As I've always shared with people that I work with, you want to start your day with the question, whatever the big question is going on in your life. Like, for instance, sales. How can I get more clients and customers into my life? Ask yourself that question when you wake up. And then when you go to bed, you ask that question again. How can I get more clients and customers into my business to provide for my life? While you're sleeping, you'll be surprised that you'll get some answers, or it may come to you when you wake up. But constantly asking yourself that question before bed and when you wake up is that constant reminder that you're seeking understanding of this particular thing. And many of these answers are within. It's stuff we kind of already know, stuff we've learned from maybe a seminar or a class or just something we've heard from someone in our network or our business. And it just never hit us with the right sound of the tuning fork to resonate with us that, oh, that's something we should be doing, or that's something I could do. And here's my twist that I could add to it, making it my own and better. So again, disconnect to recharge, no screen time. And like I said, you could journal, maybe even a gratitude journal, different from your other journal, or one in tandem. On the front page, what you're starting your day with, on the back page, what you've concluded your day with. If you enjoy writing, certainly give this a try. But you want to have some peaceful downtime of disconnecting, at the same time connecting with gratitude. What did I love about the day? What was a win that you had for the day? Big, little, or small, congratulate yourself on that and kind of end your day on a happy note. Lay your head on the pillow and sleep in peace, knowing that when you get up the next day, you're going to enjoy life one more time. Disconnect to recharge. Let's work on that. Your ritual stack: mind, body, focus, energy, reflection. Ask yourself, which one of these are you missing? There may be one or two that you're kind of phoning in, as they say. Again, I have a ritual for so many things, I've almost forgotten that they're rituals. I'll give you an example. I get up each day with that positive attitude. And as I shared with you, I go to bed with the idea of gratitude, as well as what should have I learned today that I didn't, and what can I look forward to learning now tomorrow. Even the episodes that I provide to you each and every week, I have a ritual that I go through each one of the steps. One of the steps is that I sit in peace and meditate for about 3 to 5 minutes. And that is that I'm going to deliver the best episode I can with all of my knowledge, expertise, and quite frankly, heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for listening and learning along with me about this thing called life and how we can make each one of our individual lives better to make the world at large better. This allows me to feel grounded. This allows me to connect with you, the audience. You know, this worked early This worked for me in my early speaking days, and it's continued on. If something works, you stick with it. Quite frankly, I'm not sure that it exactly works, but it also helps keep me grounded. It gets me into that space of feeling to do this. And that's where you need to be each day to be able to share, to be able to be your best authentic self. You really need to be in this state. And once you become in this state so often, it becomes your rhythm, right? This is a ritual for you that occurs each and every day. And this becomes your rhythm. This becomes your energy. This helps set the governor, if you will, that they call it, that regulates the speed of a motor or an engine. That that is the governor of your energy. How much are you building up, and how much are you emitting throughout the day? Many people will feel your energy and say, yeah, they have weak energy. You need to always be pumped up. You want to be bringing that energy to the room. And yeah, it might make some people uncomfortable, but do you want those uncomfortable people around you? Or do you want people that can match your energy or are driven by your energy to say, I don't know what it is about that person, but they magically just bring energy to the room and I can't help but want to be with them. No matter what they're doing, whether it's a big project at work or just entertaining on a social level, they just always have that energy and they're fun to be around. I think we all want to be that person, don't we? So, one of the final things that we can do is recognize that there are also those other factors. Yeah, they are things that kill energy, leaks, if you will, that are allowing energy to kind of trickle out of, even though we're building up and we're really mounting ourselves up for the greatest day. What are some things in our life that are maybe leaking this energy out so that we're not performing at our best continuously? Yeah, we start out great, but then we feel very drained halfway through the day. Some of the common saboteurs is checking in. Email first thing of the day. I don't know about you, but those are certainly a brain hijack. I get lost in email. In fact, sometimes there's too much. And many times it's kind of unnecessary. Not your emails, of course, but I mean, just some of the junk email. Hey, you have a shipping that's coming and we need to reclaim your information. Yeah, those are spams and scams and sometimes frustrating. Those can take away your energy. Another thing, skipping meals. If you're not nutritiously energizing yourself with good food, again with exercise, this creates poor cognition. Your brain's not functioning at its best because you don't have all this healthy energy. You have it spiked with, say, coffee or with energy drinks or something that's jolted your day. And again, it's not pure. So it creates that poor cognition. And that can drain because it's very stressful to always be trying to add energy. Again, like I mentioned earlier, jump starting. If you find yourself jump starting constantly throughout the day, your battery is in really poor shape and you need to slow charge your battery. And that's part of that morning ritual is to trickle charge that energy into the battery so that it can sustain your entire day. I'm probably going to hit a few trigger points, but multitasking is scattered energy. As I mentioned before in other casts, you want to split those things up into increments. I believe the study is, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't want to spend too much more than about 90 to 120 minutes on a particular task. And then you need to step away for a minimum of 10 minutes, no more than 15, and then get back to that task if it's not completed. You really and focus on that one task. I know many of you are out there going, yeah, but I can get so much more done. It's a myth. studies, universities. I can't tell you the amount of money that has been spent on the study of multitasking, and it doesn't work. It truly doesn't work. Sure, you're getting things done, but are you getting them done effectively, most effectively, and are you in a peak state, or are you draining yourself because you're doing multiple things? See, remember, we need to sustain throughout our entire day. We need to keep that battery at peak state and allow only trickle draws of electricity, not just energy dumps. And that's part of multitasking. You're truly dumping all of your energy. So you may be getting things done, but you're going to crash halfway through the day, almost certain. And did you get everything done with perfection, or did you just get it done in haste? Again, I can only share with you multitasking doesn't work. Focus on one thing, 90 to 120 minutes intensely, no distractions, one thing. And if you get it done before then, great. Take a 10-minute break, step into something else. Maybe you get that done in 60 minutes. Great. Maybe you have another task that's a little bit longer. Spend the 120 on that. When you get to that point of I don't want to say exhaustion, but when you get to that 120, set a timer, stop, take a break, step away, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then come back and get fully engaged into that one item. I guarantee you will have more production in your day. Keep in mind, you may only do 3 things a day under this course of tasks, because guess what? Life is happening around you, and you're not going to spend 20 hours of your day focused on this thing and thinking it's going to get done. Engage, break, and limit yourself to about 3, no more than 4 things a day. Once you've reached that level of 3, stop. Remember, that's why we have the chart: to do, and done. You're never going to forget. You've written it down. We have plenty of time to do what we need to do. It's not a matter of getting it all done in one time. Hope this makes sense. Break up these tasks. And if it's something so large, break it into morsels. You may spend your 3 tasks a day moment working on one task, but you're going to work on it for that 120, 120, 120, and stop. Come back to it tomorrow. Trying to get it done in one day is going to be exhausting, and you will tire yourself out. And at the end of it, it'll seem more like it was a overwhelming challenge than a pleasurable task. And that is going to lead to you never wanting to do it again. So here's a fix. You insert these mini rituals throughout your day. Like I said, break up your tasks. You could also put in like a 60-second power breathe. I find that's helpful. If you feel like, well, life or work is getting slightly overwhelming, whether you can do it privately at your desk, or you maybe need to go to the powder room, bathroom, maybe step outside if you're close to a park and just go sit on a bench. Take a 60-second power breath and just breathe and center yourself and forget about everything around you. I know you're like, well, if I forget, then I'll forget and I won't do it. Trust me, you've written, your mind is keeping track of more things than you actually want it to do. You're not going to forget. And like I said, what we write, we invite. So if you've written it down, you have it in your columns of to-dos, you're not going to forget. Take your 60-second power breath and just unplug from everything, from the situation, the task, the conversation, the people around you, whatever it is, just breathe for 60 seconds. Another thing that I like to do sometimes is I'll listen to peaceful music. Peaceful music before a call helps calm me down. Or while I'm doing a project, I might listen to peaceful music. Again, just something in the background. I don't want words. I don't want anything I can sing along to. I just want noise that helps keep the air calm. Now, I can share with you that many times I was going to a client's house in real estate, I would put the jams on. I would play some of the most obnoxious music. I would play it obnoxiously loud and pump myself up. You know why? Because I wanted to put my energy at 150%. So when I walked in that door and sat down with a client, I glowed. I was on fire. Now, depending on what state they were in, I certainly started to dial myself down to their level just so that we could have those conversations and be on the same page. But I certainly wasn't coming in with lower energy and having to build it up to their level. It's much easier to bring it down. Does that make sense? I truly hope it does. You always want to have your energy higher than where you're going because you can always dial it back. But let me tell you, when you're in the moment and you're trying to bring your energy up, it's difficult because there's things going on in that environment that are already taking place that certainly are not helping you build your energy. You can't go in the corner and play some loud music and jump around and then go, okay, I'm ready to have this conversation. You need to have that before you walk into the room. You need to be prepared. So let's recap. Rituals create rhythm. Rhythm creates power, and power creates results. Pick 3 rituals from this episode to commit to for 7 days. Also, I encourage you to download Success Rituals Habit Tracker in the show notes and share your stack at Ask Adam Live with the hashtag Peak Performance Practice. Let me leave you with this. Don't chase performance, install it. When you ritualize success, it stops being a peak and becomes your baseline. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Ask Adam Live. I look forward to sharing with you more episodes. And if there's something you feel I haven't touched on yet, please leave a comment and let me know. Hey, you haven't talked about this, and how can I handle this in my life? I would be more than happy to add that to the show roster. As well, if you enjoyed the episode, click like or subscribe. And if you thought, well, this maybe isn't for me, I invite you to possibly share it with a friend that you know it may help. I feel these are great foundational things that each one of us can put in our lives to make us better people and to perform at our best every time, each time. Now let us all go out and make it a great day.